So I just got a real career job fresh out of college. I've been thinking a lot about how that affects my own perception of myself as someone who's been pursuing a professional music career for pretty much since I've been sentient. It's been about 10 years since I've really sat down with myself and gone, this is something that I'm going to chase. While I was in school for music, I think my biggest goal was trying to beat the clock on becoming an adult in order to have this career that I feel like most of us have sought out for our entire lives as adolescents. And it's so interesting to find how many people want to do it when they're young and like underdeveloped, and then how hard they crash and burn as full adults, you know, when something wraps up or a band ends or their career changes or they have a major life shift that causes them to have to stop for whatever reason. And I think that we don't spend enough time preparing for how to enter those environments. And I got a travel job and I'm in Michigan right now, which is so different for me. I've never been here, but this is the lake and it's so pretty. I got a rental car and just got to drive out here. So this is where I'm making this video. So the real question is, why did I decide to get a full-time job as someone pursuing a music career? And this job has nothing to do with music at all. I'm currently learning how to test the mechanical systems of data centers. That's not a job I knew existed. It kind of falls in between like the white and blue collar thing. I've never done it before. Most people in it have mechanical or electrical engineering backgrounds, and I have a music degree, so I don't really fit in. While I was in school trying to support the music career, I was working in restaurants, and that was brutal. Tip your service workers. Seriously, they deserve it. They're awesome. But there's such a ceiling for how much money you can make, for how much time you need to put in that, and in our current like economy in the United States, it's pretty difficult to finance a music career independently, especially when you're trying to like have a band and write songs and play shows, because gas is expensive, hotels are expensive, rentals are expensive, buying a vehicle, good God, you're kind of on your own funding everything, right? That's not a great spot to be, especially if you're doing it by yourself. Like if you are the sole financial provider for what you were trying to do with your music career, especially being an artist, you essentially need two incomes to make it happen at all. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to do a lot of things in life, own a house, buy a car, pay bills, any medical emergency, you're cooked, dude. Like it's not happening. And if you want a sustainable music career, it has to be like a career. It cannot be this excuse to avoid work for the rest of your adult life. And I feel like most people that I've met, including myself, have viewed it like that for such a long time, because that's how it's presented to us through all these social media clips and interviews and tours and whatever it is, when in reality it's like people running a business. I have, since graduating, left Nashville for a couple reasons, but one of the main ones being the people that I was surrounded with were all very essentially anti-work. Like they didn't want music to be their career. They wanted music to be their escape from ever having to have a real job and a real reason to go out and support themselves. And that doesn't mean that they didn't put a ton of work into music, but there's a difference in the attitude that you have when you're trying to make it an adequate career, especially for other people, not just yourself. Because even if you are doing music for your solo project or doing music under your own name, you're supporting the people that are working for you, because you can't do this by yourself. It is a team effort. It is, no matter who you are, no matter what you do, no matter whether or not you want to admit it to the public, it is always a team effort. Even if you do have a flourishing music career, eventually it's going to end whether you like it or not. When that happens, if you have literally nothing to fall back on, the most intense crisis of your life is going to happen. And for a lot of musicians, it ends their lives. That is not something that's sought after. And it's so dark and so depressing, but it's all the more real. And if you're trying to build a successful and sustainable life in music, the first thing you need to do is set up a trajectory to completely avoid that path, because that is not success. Before I had a full-time career job, I was pretty positive I was going to have to choose between having a family that I could support adequately or having a music career that I could support adequately. For a lot of people, that is the choice they end up making, and each one is a pretty big sacrifice, and most of those people end up with a large amount of regret in their adult life. I found a lot of that turmoil comes from the uncertainty of not having a stable career or any work experience or any drive to go chase that. And I don't plan on doing this forever, but for what I'm doing right now and the resources required to support what I'm trying to build, I think it's probably the most essential step that I could take. And it really hones in some discipline that you wouldn't get anywhere else. That's super helpful, because when I turn around and apply this to my own band, when it's time to tour and it's time to go out and do these things, you know exactly how to operate it. You know more areas of the country that you can navigate, which is so helpful. And it's just good for life experience living in the United States. And honestly, in general, if you can end up in a position like this, there's really no reason that you shouldn't take it. It just makes sense. I think another really, really big and difficult part of it is the social perception you receive from other musicians who haven't accepted that they need to work when they find out that you have a full-time career job that isn't music. A lot of people in the industry, whether they know it or not, will just silently bully you because they're assuming you're giving up for having a career job. And, you know, for some people, they are putting music down and moving forward in life. However, I don't think that that's the case for most people. Music is really expensive. Building a studio costs $100,000 if you're gonna do it with the top of the line gear. Building a music career costs about $100,000 if you're gonna do it at the most high level. Even if you are producing and mixing and mastering your own stuff, in order to get like the most pristine quality, I'd still argue that it costs minimum $100,000 to break that threshold of being a serious, real band. That's why all of these artists that you see are fueled by labels. They need organizations full of money. And you can argue all you want that labels don't do anything, but with how they merge and the funds that they have access to, they are still semi-relevant in 2025. That's why they still exist. I think a really, really discouraging part of music in 2025 as well is just how expensive it is. This is the phase that separates a lot of people that end up doing it professionally from the ones that end up doing it either for fun or giving up on it. I found that with the generation I grew up in, and I'm a 2002 baby, the idea of being some sort of child or adolescent star has always been glamorized to a level of the highest importance, and like the stability that comes with doing that before your prefrontal cortex is developed is really, really uncertain. You don't know how to handle these things at that age, and with so many people barking at you how incredible you are and how amazing it is that you're doing this from such a young age, it will, no matter who you are, no matter what you do, shatter your perception of yourself and either glamorize it or destroy it when you're unable to consistently meet these standards that people are constantly holding you up to. And it just wreaks havoc on your mental health. I've met so many people that have been in that position, whether it's a huge like celebrity status or like a moderately sized child celebrity status. It destroys you, and that's not something you want, especially out of a flourishing music career. I think that fame can be this sort of disease in a way. However, I have seen people who also know how to handle not exactly fame, but more of being a public figure in a positive way. And most of those people are generally older and know what to do at that point. Setting up a trajectory like this for age 25 to 30 is what I'm doing to kind of preserve my future self, because not only will it give me time working outside of music to really digest and adjust to becoming an adult in the United States in 2025 through 2030, but moving forward from that in music and outside of music, because there are both, no matter what you want to believe, there are both. There will always be both. It is not just music. Moving outside of that would be much, much easier with well-rounded experience. And if you think about it from a level-headed perspective that isn't tainted by social media or fame or the expectations you hold on yourself as a musician who's attempting to be perceived by the public in any way, it's going to be so much more valuable for you to be a well-rounded person in whatever field you may be chasing, whether it's music or otherwise. Being a well-rounded person is going to be one of the most valuable traits that you have, like, at all. And I mean, think about it. I don't know why you wouldn't want to have a really versatile set of experiences in your life to share and guide you through it. I mean, whether it's storytelling or doing something like raising kids eventually, or taking it back into your music career, your career outside of music, and looking at your experiences and what you've learned and how you've learned to navigate all different kinds of people and all different kinds of art forms, how to treat others, how to work with different industries and different teams, like how to not be so self-perceptive and how to expand your eyes into all of the the facets of like life and society and just what brings you joy and what brings other people joy. It's so much better for your brain to have a wider net to cast rather than being so focused on your self-perception of like, what am I going to post today? How am I going to make my music career explode? What can I do? What can I get from other people? Because really, no matter where you are, if you know how to give, you are gonna receive. If you are only trying to receive, you're not gonna get anything. Something that got me thinking about this too was about 2 years ago, I was on tour with some of my friends from Nashville in both LA and New York, about a week apart from each other. I was 21 at that point, and when you're 21 and you just randomly fly from Nashville to Los Angeles to play drums, and then you fly to New York to play drums and run around, let out into, you know, these big entertainment capitals in the United States, you're going to perceive everything very differently. And, you know, if I were to look at myself 2 years in the future from then, 21-year-old me would probably be so disappointed in what I'm doing now, but 23-year-old me is so much prouder of the endurance that it takes to make decisions like that, and really just the ability to think long term when it comes to the sacrifices that you're making currently. I mean, look, dude, look at how pretty this sunset is. If I didn't get a full-time career job, I wouldn't be making this video right now. Your early 20s are your investment years in yourself, in your gear, in what you do, in your skill set, just how you perceive the world. And the more time that you spend expanding that palette and learning and growing, the more you're gonna thank yourself for it later. Because some people never get around to it, man. You don't really wanna end up being one of those people. It slows you down quite a bit in life, and you're not running a sprint, you're running a marathon. The slower you run the marathon, the longer it's gonna take to finish. And marathons are hard. I've never ran one. I guess we're starting, right? Maybe we're in the middle. I'd say we're on like mile 7. But all this can be applied to things outside of music too. It's just life, it's just growing up, and it's hard, bro. No one's there to fully guide you through it. Your path is your own, and I think the older you get, the more you realize we're all living life for the first time. We're all figuring it out, and there is no one right way to do it. All the expectations that have been placed on you have been kind of curated through media, kind of curated through hearsay, and kind of curated through someone that your friend used to know. As you grow and as we change and society progresses forward, we're gonna see new phenotypes of these things showing up, and I think the modern day musician is one of the first to really morph in a way that we haven't seen before. I mean, if you think about it, dude, we didn't have radio until 100 years ago. Before the radio, there was no professional pop star musician. Even 50 years after radio was the first time we really saw pop stars show up in society, rock stars, whatever genre label you want to throw on it, like big music celebrities. And as media becomes less commercialized and less streamlined, it's going to be much harder for those figures to exist, even with companies creating them and people volunteering to sign up for that position. And the other thing too is, at the end of the day, that position of being a figurehead is also just a job, and the only way you're going to do a job is by getting a job. If you want to ascend to that level and that's the job you want to do, you better know how to have a job and actually go to work. Do it on the days that you don't feel like it, and grind through it and get your experience and put in your hours and learn and fail and grow and try and network and do all of the things that come with having a job. When it's time for you to sit and face real life and get the job that social media doesn't show people and sit down and earn some money so you can live a better life, try and recognize that, number one, it's a privilege. It's really hard to get a job right now, especially a good one. Music career or not, employment is so difficult, dude, and it really is a blessing. So take it and learn how to love it, even if you fucking hate it, dude. And just know that everything changes very quickly. You might not be where you want to be in 1 year, but you could never predict where you're going to be in 5. And I said that in my last video, but it continues to reign true no matter what you do. 5 years ago, I was 18 years old. I barely wanted to go to college, and I was literally trying to kill myself. Now I'm 23. I've visited more than half the country. I've gone on tour. I have a music degree. I finished college with bipolar disorder, which is, the stats on that are pretty bad. I'm pretty sure 30%-ish. I don't know. I gotta look this up. I'll fact check it in the edit session. But yeah, if you found this video and you're pivoting and you're trying to do music and you don't really know where to go or how to do it, just know that having a support system outside of it in your career and financially is going to be by far the most helpful thing for what you're trying to do. Life is expensive, music is even more expensive, and if you want to do it right, you got to have the resources, and there's one way to get them, and that's earn it yourself. If a label helps you, that's awesome, but that's a loan. You need money, you need a life, you need financial support, and however you can get it, by all means go for it. But if you can get it by yourself, that's a skill that's going to outlast your music career no matter what you do. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking about this stuff. Hit subscribe. I fucking hate saying that in real life. The people that can hear me right now are probably clowning. If you like these videos, I'm going to keep making them, and we're going to start unpacking songwriting as I go forward. So stick around for that. I keep fucking missing.